Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone today? Let's see, what is today? Today is Tuesday. It took me a second. Happy Tuesday, everyone. This is part of the Sexual Assault Awareness Month observation and celebration. Thank you so much for joining today. We are going to be joined here by Jessica from the Pride Law Firm. Give us 1 second to get connected. And apparently cough in your faces. All right. Making connections happen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, technology. Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hang tight. I'm going to connect with Jacob, who's going to be providing ASL access for us. And I just got a frog in my throat, so give me 1 second.
And Jessica is still in her depot, so.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining. We are waiting to connect with Jacob, who's going to be providing some ASL access. Hang tight, everyone. Let's see. How's everyone doing today? Chime in the chat how you're doing, where you're coming in from. I am in Virginia. It is actually a nice sunny day. We've had some rain the past few days, so I'm glad the sun is out. Yeah, keep the comments coming. Thank you for being here. I'm not sure what is going on. Let's see. Someone's joining from Texas. Excellent. Hello, hello, Texas. Technology, right? The best laid plans. Glad people are doing well. New York, excellent. Minnesota, Miami, Florida, all over. We were just talking before this how what a great community it is, and how we all have our local communities, and we formed this larger community. Southern California. Excellent. Thank you all for your patience. I am going to try to see. Jacob, can you hear me at all? Are you seeing the request? Yes, I think that was him. Hi, from California, Missouri. All right. Let's try one more time. Third time's the charm. I believe it. We got this. We got this. I believe in us. Yeah, I see your comment. I keep clicking the request. Are you seeing, it says waiting for? It says it's waiting. I think it's waiting for you to request it. I mean, to confirm it. Apologies. Thank you all. Everyone's being so patient. Hopefully we will be able to get him to join in a second. If not, we will go ahead and get going and try to work that out as we go. Okay, I am not sure what's going on. Jacob, I am sending you another request. And then hopefully you'll be able to accept. If not, we're going to go ahead and get started. If people, well, I recognize that if you are here for ASL access, you cannot hear any of this, and I'm probably pretty confused. And for some reason, it's not letting me chat. But let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully Jacob will join. I can always edit in some ASL interpretation and some captions after the fact. I am Lauren with Me Too Many Voices. This is part of the MTMV Sexual Assault Awareness Month celebration and observance. Thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited and honored to be joined here by Christy from the Pride Law Firm. They are out of California on the West Coast representing. Christy is the survivor advocate with the firm, and having worked with her, prepping for this, I can tell she wears many hats. Well, that may be her official title. Jessica is finishing up a deposition. So thank you very much for joining, Christy. I will let you further introduce yourself and the firm in a moment. It's hard enough to make a decision about reporting sexual assault, sexual harassment. It's hard enough to make that decision, let alone if you don't have the information or the resources to be able to make an informed decision. Hold on, Jacob is asking me to request again. He thinks he got it figured out. I'm not seeing you in the live. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And I want to remind everyone that Christy, and if Jessica joins as well, that they are here to answer questions. They work with civil law, the civil court system, which is a bit different from the criminal court system, which we'll also touch on. They'll do their best to answer any questions about the criminal process, but they are experts in the civil side of things. And if we don't get to your questions today, they have generously offered to, if you want to reach out to them, their phone number is in their profile, and I can also post it into the chat later. Yes, without further ado, I'd love to pass it off to you, Christy. Introduce yourself and the firm a little bit more.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for having me. And I'm sorry that Jessica is in a deposition right now. That's how it works here. You know, things get moved around, get shuffled around. So I am what we call survivor advocate. My training is in victim advocacy. I have been a SAAM advocate for a rape crisis center for many years. I sat with survivors during their forensic exams, otherwise known as their rape kit exams. I have been a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate for foster kids, and so I've been doing this for many years. I've been working with civil attorneys for about 5 years, and the Pride Law Firm has been helping sexual assault survivors for over a decade. Jessica's been doing this work. Jessica is a personal injury attorney, which means she could do other things such as, you know, car accidents and stuff like that, but she chooses to specifically focus all her time and energy on sexual assault, child sexual abuse, and sexual harassment cases, which is basically sexual assault in the workplace. So my job is basically, I am here to support our survivors, our clients from start to finish, from the very first phone call. And the one thing that I love about Jessica and this firm is that we are really here to support the whole survivor community, not just the clients that we can take their cases. We try to answer every question that comes in and then connect them to resources regardless, you know, of what they need, regardless of whether we can take their case or not. So my job is really just to be a bridge to resources, be a support, you know, be here to answer questions. And so that's what I'm here to do today.
Thank you so much. I know it gives me hope that there's firms and lawyers and groups out there like you. So thank you from all of us. I think the first question maybe to get us going is, what is the difference between the civil and the criminal court system? And what does that look like when navigating and deciding to report?
The biggest difference is in the civil cases, the survivor has most of the control and the power and the decision making, obviously guided by their attorney. So in the criminal justice process, unfortunately, the victim or the survivor is basically a witness to a crime that was committed against them, and really a crime committed against the state. They broke a state law, and they can go and make a report, and the police will investigate. But and then they can, also have a choice in whether they want to report or not. But the ultimate decision on prosecuting lies with the prosecutor. And so, the victim is just a witness to their case, and the prosecutor does need them to go forward, but, and most likely wouldn't go forward without them, but they can. So on the civil side, we are here just to support the victim. Everything is survivor centered, survivor focused, especially at our law firm. We're very trauma informed, resilient informed, and we're here to get the best outcome for them, whatever that is for them. What does justice look like to them? Are they, obviously, in a civil case, we are going after monetary compensation. That is so that the survivor can use that money to heal, to get therapy, to go to school, whatever it is that they need to move forward. On the criminal justice side, the prosecutor is looking at putting that offender away. It's more offender focused, and they want to put the offender behind bars. They may charge them a fine. The victim may get restitution, which is also a monetary compensation, but it's very low, and it's not guaranteed, and it's a process. And it can be a very cold and intimidating process. It really, I've heard, if you get a good victim advocate from the DA's office, you can have a better experience, but that doesn't always happen. And then on the civil side, you get to be heard, your voice gets to be heard, and you can ask for other changes outside of money as well. Like maybe you could, depending on where the abuse happened, say it happened at a school, you could ask for training, to be prevention training, to be given in the future.
Thank you for that. That's so helpful.
I'm sorry, I forgot another major important thing. The difference between criminal and civil is the burden of proof. So the burden of proof is much higher in a criminal case. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt. And in the civil trial, it's just a preponderance. So it's, they call it 50 and a feather. It's just more likely than not that it happened. So it's easier for us to prove in a civil case.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And as you said, absolutely. I mean, I said this in another live. I've been saying it a lot lately. It's kind of hard to call it the criminal justice system when so few people actually get justice in it. And so civil process, it does, the burden of proof with these things is so hard. And even that, opening up the margin a little bit, I can imagine a lot of cases that would not meet that burden of proof with the criminal side would be able to, hopefully on the civil side, find more room.
Yeah, it unfortunately, prosecuting sexual assaulters, as you probably know, more than 95% are not prosecuted, and it's sad. And,
it is sad.
So, I've been through both as a survivor, as a mother of a survivor. I've been through both the criminal process before this, before I ever had this job. I've been through the criminal process for my daughter and through the civil process. So I have personal experience with it as well.
Thanks for sharing that. I have as well, for folks who are listening, I have worked with both the civil and the criminal side. So speaking of when, and I do see folks' questions coming in, we will get to them. I want to help lay a little bit more groundwork before we get to some of these specific questions. But after, someone calls your law firm, they want to go the civil route. What would you tell them? What does that process look like?
So the process is basically, you call, you do an intake with me. I ask you some very mundane questions. Then I, obviously need to get the some details from you. You can tell me as little or as much as you want. I need, there are some things I need to get answered just to know if it's something that we can litigate. And then our entire team reviews your information. Everything is confidential. Anything you say to me is confidential. We are not allowed to share that with anybody without your permission. In our law office, we are all trauma informed. We're actually an all female team. Uh, we, not that that matters. We could have men on our team, but we happen to be an all female team, and we are all trauma informed. And so we review it, and we do our absolute best to see, okay, how can we win this case for this survivor? Because we do not, the last thing we want to do is cause any more trauma to a person who's already been through this. So it's really important that we know, okay, can we win this? And some people get upset and they think, oh, that's just all about the money, but it's really not. I mean, the whole purpose of a civil case is to get you money, but it's a long process. It's typically a little over a year, and that was pre-COVID. COVID has extended everything. Nobody likes hearing that because it seems like COVID is used as an excuse for everything these days, but COVID has extended that. But it's at least a year-long process, and it can be very anxiety-inducing because there's a lot of wait time. There's a lot of time where we like I check in with all of our clients on a monthly basis at the very least. Unless there's an update, we check in even sooner. Any kind of update, we get back to them. But I know when I went through it personally, and I had a really great attorney, but they didn't have an in-house victim advocate. So nobody was, checking in on me. Like 3 months, 4 months could go by. But they're working behind the scenes. So the attorneys are working behind the scenes. We're gathering evidence. We're investigating. We often hire a private investigator. We have our paralegals doing a lot of investigating, digging up, reports, getting police reports, getting medical records. So we're always working behind the scenes, but we don't like to, bother the survivor as less as we have to, because we know it can be triggering or re-traumatizing every time, they get the call, they see it's a call from their lawyer, they have to answer questions maybe. So we start off by getting as much as we can, and then we say, hand over that burden for us to carry. You go and do some self-care, get some therapy, take care of yourself, let us worry about the case. Now, if you're a survivor and you've been through this like we have, that that's easier said than done. You're over here like, what can I do? What can I do? And you want to search everything on the internet, and you just want to try and control the situation. But we really do try to keep you informed every step of the way. So in the beginning, it's mostly us gathering information. Once you give us your story and tell us your experience of what happened, you get to take a little break for a little while. And then later on down the road, we will ask some, for some information from you. We will have to get your medical insurance card so we can pull your medical records. We can pull a police report if there is any. We will do everything we can for you as much as we can. And your only job is to heal yourself, to get therapy. And then later on down the road, there may be there's probably going to be what's called discovery, which is a whole list of questions. There's usually 3 different sets of questions, or 2 sets of questions, and 1 set that's called a request for production, where they want you to turn things in, like screenshots of text messages you've sent or emails you've sent, stuff like that. So that comes way later on down the road, maybe depending on the case, maybe 6 months down the road. And then it could lead to a deposition where you are sitting in a room and the other side, the defense, their attorney gets to ask you questions. You have your attorney in the room, and in our law firm, you have me in the room, and you might even have another one of our attorneys, Alana, in the room. We like to give you a full team support, And so the other side will get to ask you questions. We fully prep you in advance. You know, we help you. I actually provide a lot of grounding exercises. We give self-care packages. We do a lot to try and alleviate those nerves and anxiety and help you get through it. So that's an all-day process usually. And then, you know, from there, after a deposition, the attorneys look at the cases, both sides look at the cases, and they say, okay, can we mediate this and avoid going to trial? And we prefer to do that for our survivors. They have the choice. We always want to give survivors the choice. But we know, you know, trial can be very traumatizing. And so we like to mediate our cases. We're very successful at it. We have a good outcome. The survivor's voice gets to be heard. They get to be validated. And that pretty much wraps it up. But that whole process takes, you know, a good year at least, if not more.
That's very thorough. Thank you. And yes, speaking of the time, I mean, the civil cases can go for years. You know, what would you say the average time that you see them go for is from start to finish?
I would say before COVID, it was about, you know, a year and a half. Now about 2 years. Everything's backed up. You know, the courts were closed for a long time. And now everything's reopened, but there's like this huge long wait list, you know, to get an appointment. So I would say right now over probably closer to 2 years or more. It's just really dependent on the case, but the average, yeah, it would be like a year and a half.
Thanks for that. We do have a lot of questions coming in. I kind of scrolled back up and found some of these earlier ones. So you are in California. Someone's asking about the time limit, the statute of limitations. Can you speak to that at all?
Sure. So for sexual assault, the law changed in 2019 in California. You now have 10 years. Prior to 2019, though, it was only a 2-year statute. So unfortunately, if you were sexually assaulted in 2018 as an adult, your statute would be expired already. And then for child sexual abuse cases, if you were a minor and you were assaulted, abused, molested, in California only, right now we have what's called a look back window or a reprieve on the statute, and it was opened in 2000. I always get this messed up. It was a 3-year window, and it ends next year. So we can go back 50 years on the child sexual abuse of a minor only, and there's some special circumstances. If the person is over 40 years old, they have to have a psychological evaluation, you know, where they are set, you know, we have to provide a certificate of merit and stuff like that. But those are the statutes.
Thank you. And that leads into another question that someone had actually, you know, typed in ahead of time and asked about, you know, what kind of things can you sue for? You know, there's sexual assault, but you know, I know, you know, there's harassment or, you know, workplace. So, you know, can you speak to a little bit more about what can be brought forward in a civil case?
Well, here's Jessica, and I would actually.
Oh, perfect timing.
Hi, I'm so
Hi, Jessica.
I apologize. It's a crazy day.
No, thank you. We'd love to see you prioritizing your clients. That's what we would all want in a lawyer.
Sorry, fires happen, and I'm trying to kick this person's butt in the other room, get my client justice. So, what's the question? What would you like to know?
Yeah, first off, let's just take a quick second, everyone. This is Jessica Pride. She is the managing attorney with the Pride Law Firm. So thank you for being here. Christy has been wonderful. I'm glad that we get to be joined by both of you today. How great is that? I was just asking, we're talking about statute of limitations in a civil case. And I was asking, like, what can be brought forward in a civil case, as far as, whether it's sexual assault, sexual harassment in the workplace, what types of cases?
So, okay, that's a really big question. A good question, but a big question, because every state has a different statute of limitations. So, and then there's exceptions to the rule. So I think it's really important that if you think you have a case, or you do have a case, or you just want to get a consultation, talking to lawyers is free. So I would just call an attorney in your state, or call us, and hopefully we'll know. We have a list actually of all the statutes around the country. But for example, in California, the statute of limitations for a sexual assault is 10 years in a personal injury case. If the victim, I like to call survivors, but unfortunately in the law, they still refer to them as victims, was an adult. If the person was a minor, then that statute is much longer. Currently in California right now, you can go back 50 years, and they revive, because we have a special statute, a special thing in place right now to revive old cases. Because before that, it was till your 26th birthday. So there's lots of, twists and turns. And then if it's employment law, right? So even though it's a rape or a sexual assault, if it happens at your workplace within the course and scope of your employment, we call it a sexual harassment case. And in that arena, you have 1 year, maybe up to 3, depending on the cause of action. So it really depends. And then we have a lot of cases too where a survivor's been sexually assaulted by their medical provider. And so if you've been assaulted by your doctor or your psychiatrist, something like that, then you have 1 year. That's a really quick one in California. But like I said, statutes are different all over in every single state. So unfortunately, it's hard, right, to figure out what applies. The best thing to do is, like I said, contact a lawyer who can figure that out for you. And then, figure out where to go from there. Let's see. How would you comment on witnessing sexualized behavior or touching genitals areas in a high school classroom during a lesson? Okay. If you have seen a person being touched, I would recommend that you report. Contact your local agency, whether it's CPS or the local police department, and put that on file. You can report it to the school, but I would make sure that you make it a written, an email or a letter. But I would also send that to the teacher credentialing or to the police department, because what we have found in some of our child sex abuse cases is that the school districts are really good at hiding stuff and burying, and all of a sudden they can't find their records. And so you really need to make sure that it's a public, it's made public, meaning giving it to an agency so they have notice, and they can't then say, oh, we didn't know that that teacher was a danger to children. We want to make sure that perpetrators who are out there hurting children, and we know that they are never one-hit wonders, they tend to reoffend and reoffend. So they need to see those red flags so that the appropriate agencies can do something about it, and we can protect the children. So thank you for asking that question. I think it's a really good one. Head teacher referred to this as no need for training is difficulty caused by teachers CSA. I don't agree with any of that. I think that anytime a child is, if there is a threat of child abuse, we know that the abuse is often not the harm that's seen, because that usually happens behind closed doors, and perpetrators are really crafty and they don't want to get caught, right? But what we do see are the red flags. We see all the grooming process. We see them taking special interest in children, being alone with the child behind closed doors, buying them gifts, giving them rides after school. Those are all red flags. And so if you are a teacher or you work at a school or security guard, and you see those things, it's really important for you to report them, because you are protecting a child, or you're stopping, hopefully, behavior, because it's what you don't see behind closed doors that is really going to cause lifelong trauma to a child. More questions?
Yeah, let's see. We have another question. I've been told since one of the times he assaulted me, it was on campus, that it would be under Title IX. Would that change anything in a civil case?
Yeah, so Title IX is that's a federal statute that also has timing on it. And it also depends, it gets triggered by different things because they have to do a Title IX investigation, depending on what they find out. Then you have so much time to do something. So again, I would talk to a Title IX attorney who practices that, because there's so many questions that we have that to be asked in order to give you advice. I just want to say I can't give specific legal advice in a public forum like that. It's against our legal code ethics, but I can give you general advice, and I really want to help all of you who have questions. So please, you've got me for, I apologize, I'm in between. I jumped out on a break because I did not want to miss this. You've got me for like another 10 minutes, and then Christy can finish up. But what other questions do you have while you got me?
Excellent. No, thanks for being here. And we had a couple of people, putting questions in advance. What is, I just lost my place. 1 second. In what ways will a defense attorney try to show doubt in a victim's testimony? Which I realize is a very big question.
Yeah, so it depends, right? What are we talking? Are we talking a criminal case, or are we talking a civil case? So in a criminal case, the purpose is to put the perpetrator behind bars. In a civil case, the purpose is to get the survivor money for pain and suffering. The criminal lawyers use some of the same, or defense lawyers use some of the same tactics, but a little different. So in a criminal case, they want to poke holes in a survivor's story. They'd like to discredit them. So if your psych records, if you had prior psychiatric history, you do not want them getting a hold of those. If they do try to subpoena them, you make sure you tell that district attorney, or you call somebody like me to go in and object in court and say absolutely not, because those are not admissible at a preliminary hearing until the time of trial. And then the judge gets to decide what pieces come in, because they always want to make the survivor seem crazy, right? She's a crazy lady making up stories. And what we know is that that's not true. Most survivors actually are telling the truth. And those percentages go down to children where it's 2% are, wrong. So majority of survivors are telling the truth, but they want to find anything else to throw, what we call it, throwing mud on the walls, to try and distract people away from what's actually the truth. In, a civil case too, they try to, the person had problems before. In criminal cases too, they try to bring in a client's past sexual history, but that is a huge no-no. It is not allowed. Marcy's Law protects the survivor from having their prior sexual experiences protected. In civil court, it's a little bit grayer. It depends on judges, but we do our best to make sure that that is never brought in. So really, what I say to clients is find an amazing advocate to be on your side, have a great support system, and just be confident. Like, I know as survivors, as women and humans, we doubt ourselves. We think, like, did that really happen? Did it happen the way I thought it did? No, that couldn't, because we don't want to assume the worst. What did we do? You know your truth. You know your truth. Tell your truth. Stick with your truth. Don't let anybody waver you from it, because they try to get you to change your story. And when you change your story, that means you're lying. And that's not true, especially with children. We know that kids will tell a little piece, then more as the layers are peeled back and they feel more comfortable to say what happened. So it's really important to just stick to your guns. Don't let anybody sway you.
Thank you for that. I want to just jump in there real quick, as someone asked, if I apologize, my screen is frozen for whatever reason. So if you guys don't mind putting your questions in the actual chat, nothing is happening when I hit the actual question button. So I'm not seeing those. Apologies.
Somebody asked, if DNA evidence is absent, is there any hope? Yes. I have taken cases, I did a case of trial with no DNA evidence. I have seen criminal prosecutions happen without DNA evidence. Because maybe they got a pretext call, meaning they had you call the perpetrator with the detective on the line and they recorded it, and you got them to say, like, hey, I'm pregnant, and they had said they didn't have sex with you, you lie, and they're like, oh God, sorry, or or you catch them in a lie and they admit that they hurt you. Other ways is text messages. There's so many other types of evidence that can help convict somebody or find them guilty in a civil case. So just because you don't have DNA evidence, don't give up. And to remember that even if they don't prosecute in a criminal case because the burden of proof is so high beyond a reasonable doubt, it is different in civil cases. It's more likely than not. So 50 and a feather. If they believe your story more than theirs, you win, which is why we have so much more high success rate of justice in civil court than criminal court. So, and we often have cases that do both, only do one, do none. It's really up to survivor what justice means for them. So we encourage that.
Never delete.
Oh yeah, never delete the evidence. Don't delete. I know as humans, we want to be like, oh, I hated that day or that night. You want to forget all about it. And you're like, delete, delete, delete. Throw the stuff away. Take a shower. Please don't do that, because it doesn't mean you can't win your case. And I get it. It's a human response to try to save all the evidence. What degree do you need to become a survivor advocate? Well, to be an advocate, actually, to be a lawyer, in that sense, you need a JD. You need to go to law school, but to be an advocate, I think you just have to go to the classes, right?
I mean, you can get a degree in criminal justice, but there is survivor advocate, or it's called victim advocate training, and there's credentialing programs. You can go through the Office for Victims of Crime. They have a technical training center. You can also get trained through your local rape crisis center. That's a training to be like a SART advocate or crisis intervention team advocate. But a lot of places require also at least an associate's degree or criminal justice background.
Amazing. And I'm going to flip through these questions to see if there's any legal questions before, and then Christy can answer the rest.
Well, they were asking what causes of action can bring a civil case.
Okay, I can talk about that. Let's see, you need an attorney in Miami, Florida. We do cases all over the country. We just pro hoc in, meaning we got a local attorney to help us. So I would call us, and if I can't take it, I actually have a friend in Miami that does cases there. So I can refer you to her if we can't help you. Do you have to pay for a lawyer and you get accountability? Okay, civil lawyers work on a contingency basis, which means you only pay us if you win, and we take a percentage. So, lawyers are different around the country, but standard, they're anywhere between like a third to like 50%. We charge 40%. That means if you want $100, you pay us 40, you take 60. That's a simplistic version about it. And if you lost your case, which knock on wood, we've never lost, you wouldn't pay us anything. That would be our gamble. What else? What are you doing? DNA evidence. If you didn't get your rape kit, I would definitely recommend that you call the police department, call the district attorney's office in your area to follow up on that. If not, call Mariska Hargitay's organization and make some waves, because there is a huge backlog of rape kits and they need to do something about that, because you are entitled, I think, to have your rape kit. And they should put that information into the system so we can figure out if there's other survivors who've been hurt. So we know that there's strength in numbers. We really need to band together to hold as many perpetrators responsible as possible. What do you do if your DNA evidence with the police department fails to send your complete rape kit testing and urine blood samples, felony failure happens, and the guy gets no charge? That sounds like a miscarriage of justice. But call the district attorney's office. I would make a complaint and talk to the police department. Find any schools for victimology and advice. Christy can answer that. Do you have a last question for me? I am so sorry to like come in and say hello and goodbye. But I apologize. I have a client who needs me.
No, I appreciate it. And you're off. No, thank you for all of that. And we passed off to everyone before you got here. And if anybody does have any other questions, that you are available to talk at the Pride Law Firm. This was at Jessica Pride. Thank you so much.
Definitely. If you ever need me, if you have any questions, please, I'd be happy to talk to you. Christy would be happy to talk to you. You can either find us on Instagram, the Pride Law Firm. You can go to our website, victimlawyer.com. We have lots, actually, free self-care resources on there. We have a lot of general questions that are answered, and then we can answer any specific questions. Thank you so much. Let's see, for everybody, go to civil court. Well, it costs a percentage. It costs a percentage. So you pay me a percentage, and then we front your costs for you. So it doesn't cost you anything initially. It's only when you win out of the settlement money that we take a percentage, which I think is the best way for survivors, because you're the one who hurt and you shouldn't have to then pay a lawyer retainer fee. Most people, that would be cost prohibitive and nobody would be able to hire a lawyer. Thank you so much for having me. I apologize for coming and going to be in this space. So blessed to have such an amazing team. And thank you so much for raising awareness about this. Hope that the rest of your SAAM goes wonderfully. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank
I'm going to turn it back over to Christy.
I love this. I love this. This is great. Hello again.
Hi.
We'll try to answer a few more questions. Thank you for this again. Looking at some other questions that people submitted ahead of time. And again, folks, my screen is frozen. So if you're inputting questions in the standard Instagram Live like question box, for whatever reason, Instagram is being a little bit of a jerk face today and is literally not letting me click on it. So I can only see the chat. So I'm not ignoring you. Please drop them in the chat and we'll try to answer as many as we can. One question ahead of time that someone asked ahead of time: if someone is found not guilty of sexual assault, someone reported, would double jeopardy protect them from being charged in a different case? And I know in a civil, I know that you're the experts on the civil side, but
I mean,
how would that work?
I really would hate to answer that question because it is more criminal and I'm not an attorney. However, I mean, if it's a different victim, I would pretty much say they could still be charged. I don't know if it's the same victim but a different crime. Maybe if it's a different date. I really don't know because that is criminal, not civil. So I'm sorry.
Well, can you speak to it on the civil side as far as, I mean, I know the answer to this, but, you know, just for the person who did ask it, for the civil side, can the same person be sued more than once civilly?
Oh, sure. Yes. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Excellent. Someone's asking what's a typical percentage that lawyers will ask for, a civil lawyer, what type of contingency?
So in California, like Jessica said, it's anywhere between 33, like a third, 33 and a third to 50%. We charge 40%. Some attorneys will have in their contract, I think it's kind of sneaky, I don't like it, but they'll say 33 and a third for doing this. And then if we have to go to mediation, it jumps up to 35. And then if we have to file a lawsuit, it goes up to 40. So but we almost always have to file. I mean, even if we do go to mediation, we have to file. So it's kind of misleading if you ask me. That's my opinion. But 40 is very, very standard practice here in California. And again, you don't pay anything up front. You don't pay anything if you lose. It's all taken out of the winnings.
Thank you for that.
And then sometimes if it's a case where a minor is involved, the judge has discretion. The judge can lower that percentage. They can put a cap on it. So we don't have any say-so in that. The judge does.
Thank you for that. And we are running out of time. I'm wondering, you've heard what we've discussed, some of the questions. Is there anything else that you would want a victim of sexual violence, of sexual assault, sexual harassment to know in general, and also, or to know in regards to the civil process?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the number one thing is, you know, most sexual assault cases are not prosecuted. We get a lot of survivors call. They're very upset about that case. They're very upset, you know, like both processes, the criminal and the civil, they're very slow moving. Like they're not it's not like you see on TV. I mean, I think TV does a huge disservice to survivors because it doesn't go anything like that. They don't run out and try to catch the bad guy. You know, nothing is urgent. They have a huge caseload, and it's very urgent to us. It's very urgent to the survivor, right? To the person who has been harmed, but it's not urgent to them. It takes a long time. These processes take a long time. It doesn't mean that we're not working on it. We're constantly working, you know, behind the scenes. And I like to tell people to what Jessica had mentioned about, you know your truth. I like to say, if you're being interviewed by somebody like a police officer or even an attorney, and you say something and then they say it back, but they use different words, and it changes the meaning a little bit. I like to tell survivors, be sure you say, no, that's not what I said. I said this. You want to understand that we are all on your side. Even the police are supposed to be on your side, even if it doesn't feel like it's because they're not trained well enough. You can tell when somebody's trained well enough or not. So if it doesn't feel like it, it means they're not trained well enough, but they actually are supposed to be on your side. And you need to follow up with them. If you do go report your case to the police and you don't hear anything back for like a month, you need to follow up with them. Some people are upset if they don't hear back within a week, and that's just, I mean, that doesn't happen that often. So there needs to be realistic expectations so that you're not let down, you know, because you will be let down. I hate to say that, but it just doesn't go the way we think it's going to go, especially because of TV. It just doesn't go that way. And so just make sure that whatever you say is heard. And if not, then say, no, that's not what I said. Repeat it again. And as far as civil lawsuits go, it is really hard to sue individuals. It's really hard to sue, even though it is illegal and wrong and sad to be abused by your partner or somebody that you've met on a dating app. It is very hard to actually sue them in a civil lawsuit. So that doesn't mean we can't, but it's very rare. And I just want survivors to focus on, sometimes I feel like the focus on is solely on justice when it should be more on healing. And because no amount of justice ever feels like enough in my experience. So that's why we try to provide resources. We really want to help the survivor heal holistically.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you so much for all of that. I want to add a couple of things as someone who has, you know, remember when you're looking for a lawyer, and just in all of this, when you're reporting, even if it may not feel like it, you're the expert on you, you know, and as Christy was saying, you know, be heard. You know what, even though you may doubt yourself and have those times where it's hard to believe yourself and it's all confusing and muddy, you know what happened. You're the expert on you. And it's, you know, it's not easy, but advocate for yourself as well through this. You know, when you call lawyers, you know, it's so wonderful that Christy and Jessica and their firm are so survivor informed and centering survivors. Unfortunately, not all lawyers are like that. So remember, you're hiring them, essentially, you know, call them, interview them, ask them questions about, to detect how trauma informed they are. Because it is so, so critical to be able to trust your lawyer and to feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah, and I would like to add that it's really important that you tell lawyer everything, you know, especially once they become your lawyer, once you've signed a contract. But don't be afraid, like, don't be afraid, like, say you were highly intoxicated or you had taken drugs that night or something. Do not be afraid. You need to tell your lawyer every single thing. You need to tell them the truth. They are not there to judge you. They are there to support you, and they are there to be on your side. And if you don't tell them things because you're afraid of like, oh, then, you know, maybe that makes me to blame or partially to blame. No, you're never. In a sexual assault and sexual abuse case, you are never to blame, regardless of anything you did, said, drank, ate, wear, anything. But what it does is it helps your lawyer be prepared. There are lots of real, legit reasons, you know, that we can account for. And so it's very important. That's one thing. I mean, even myself, it's not that I didn't tell my lawyer the truth. I told my lawyer everything, but I was really intimidated and scared, like to ask a lot of questions. I was scared to call too much and ask for an update. Like I said, like 3 or 4 months ago by. So don't be scared. Don't be intimidated by your lawyer. But also, like Lauren said, when you're interviewing lawyers, I would ask what kind of support staff they have. And it's not common yet for civil attorneys. Jessica was the first one here in San Diego to hire a full-time in-house. Like a lot of them also have a victim advocate, but I know they're on contract because I was one of those. I was on contract. I can, as needed, drop in. Jessica was the first to hire full-time in-house. I'm here every day because it really makes a difference in your support. You know, I would ask, if I get deposed, who's going to be with me? I have literally heard from way too many. I heard just yesterday from way too many people that when they went to a deposition, they were in a room of all men. They had a male attorney and the other side was male and all that. And we're not saying men are bad guys, but when you're a woman that has been sexually assaulted by a man, the last thing you want to do is sit in a room full of men and talk about your sexual assault by a man. So I would definitely ask any attorney you're with, who is there for my support? Who's going to sit with me in mediation? Who's going to sit with me in a deposition? Who do I get to call when I'm upset? If I'm upset and I need to know something about my case, who am I going to call? Who do I get to talk to? That's really important. And that's really actually why I do what I do, because when I went through it, I didn't have that person, and I really wanted that person. I kept thinking, God, I wish I could talk to somebody. I felt really intimidated by my lawyers. And again, they were great people. I had a great outcome. But I'd never been through this before. And 99.9% of the people who call me have never been through it before. That's a very common thing. And so it can be very intimidating and overwhelming process. You want support, 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 support.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you so much. And thank you for being that support for so many. We are about out of time, and I don't want us to, Instagram will actually shut off your Instagram live if you go over a time limit, and I don't want that to happen to us because that can feel abrupt. We're talking about a lot of heavy things. I don't want that. So let's, kind of finish it off. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Christy. Remember, this is the Pride Law Firm. You can visit them here on Instagram. Where else can they find you if people wanted to ask more questions or potentially hire you?
So our number is 619-516-8166. Our website is victimlawyer.com, and you can, type in questions there or send us an email there. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We do have, so Jessica Pride is the sexual assault attorney. And then we actually have a separate website that's the Pride Law Firm, because that is Jessica's husband, Dante. He does civil rights and employment law and stuff like that. So sometimes people get confused, but Victim Lawyer is our sexual assault, Jessica's side of the law firm that handles all of that.
Thank you. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for all you do. And everyone, thank you for joining and your thoughtful questions and conversation. You matter. What happened to you matters, and you being able to make informed choices, that really matters. I am going to, in case this stirred things up, I have a screen where I prepared some resources. I am going to say goodbye to Christy here, so I'm hopefully able to share it on my screen. You can always reach out to me at Me Too Many Voices, and look out for, we have a few more events coming up later this month for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Thanks for being part of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. If I'm going to, if you don't mind, leaving the live, Christy, so I can share the slide, because it's for...
Do I just click out of it?
Yes, if you hit the X.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Reach out anytime.